If you have a law firm, if you have a criminal defense practice, should you scale it? Should you turn into a business? Tune in and find out.
You are listening to the Prosper Law Podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. Recently, I was listening to a podcast that I really enjoy, and it was two criminal defense lawyers that were talking about some things, and one of them was talking about how he had taken over his father's law firm, and it was failing. His father was from a previous generation, and then his son came in, and he had the talent and the ability and the vision to understand how the world changed. In other words, when his father, who was a successful, respected lawyer, practiced law, the way you got clients was different, and it had changed, and the law firm was declining. And this person came in and made it better and turned it into something that really started thriving because he was innovative. And the other person who was talking with him was saying, because the way it came up was this individual said that he had talked to some other lawyers and seen their website. And he described their website as being something that was designed basically when the internet and marketing just came out, because as this developed, these firms, which were innovative at the time, would had this kind of done-for-you system. And I remember going to legal seminars where they were there, they had a booth, and they would put somebody on stage, and they would talk about the benefits of digital marketing and the benefits of building a certain kind of website. And I remember there were some people I knew, and I didn't sign up for them at the time. I probably should have. But there were problems with it later, because once they dialed you in and they had control, they built your website, but what these lawyers didn't know, and they found out the hard way, is that the lawyer didn't own the site. The company signed it. The company had them sign it over. Basically, the lawyers did not own their own intellectual property. And that's the way these companies, held on to people, which is not the way you want to do it. But anyway, they were talking about how just looking at other lawyers and how far behind they were and all the things that they were not doing and how foolish that was, or how bad that was. And this person was just frustrated. And the other person said, listen, scaling a firm and growing a firm and handling all the 7 parts of a business and all the 7 parts of a law firm, it's not for the faint of heart. And there's nothing wrong with somebody who has a good enough practice where it's just a few people and the lawyer's practicing law and he's getting some referrals, and he doesn't want to grow big, or she doesn't want to scale because it's difficult. And sometimes when I talk about my practice and the growth that I've had, and I talk about how much I work in the law firm, and it's some weeks I'm not in there a lot, like for instance this week because I'm traveling, I'm literally in my law firm. I was in there 2.5, 3 hours one day that week. But I don't want people to be misled by that, because, my daughters say that I'm a workaholic and I work all the time. So I draw the distinction between being in the law firm, working in the law firm, versus the other things I do. And I work remotely most of the time, but I'm working. I'm always working. I'm always doing things, whether I'm thinking about something that we need to implement, whether I'm testing something, whether I'm researching something. It's not a situation where it's like the 4-hour work week that I'm advocating, where I'm saying, if you set the system up you can not work. Now, for me and my personality, if I'm not achieving something, if I'm not producing something, if I'm not making, a contribution in life, I'm not happy. I'm only happy when I'm contributing. So it's not that I'm checked out. So when I talk about being in the law firm and only working, say 15 hours a week or 25 hours a week or something like that, don't think that that means I'm not working. Okay. Now I take vacations and I do check out, and the way things operate, I'm able to, because I have great people. I have great systems. I have so many people doing so many things for me that I cannot do all those things myself. It's too much. So I have people that do things for me, and sometimes they're so great it's almost unbelievable. And what's changed for me is that before, I would have this great idea and I would say, let's do this, let's implement that. And nobody was on board. Now what happens is the people on my team, they come up with ideas and they say, Greg, I want to do this, say for social media. I would like to do something here. I want to expand something and do something better. And so we work through the details, and then they go do it. And then they own it. So think of it as I've got 9 people that are innovating and doing things, and they like doing it because that's the kind of people they are. And they like what we do for people. They like defending people. They like helping people in those situations. And so everybody's working. My output is almost 10x because all these people have different roles that they're trying to do themselves to make the law firm grow, to make our clients' service better, to help our clients more, to get information to them faster, to be more responsive, and to continually assist the lawyers in driving better and better outcomes in their criminal cases. So don't take it the wrong way. If you're lazy and you don't want to work, then building a law firm is probably not a good choice because you're going to be miserable. And if you don't want to get involved in that, and that's what these guys were talking about, is, a normal person, quote, normal person, do they really want to deal with all this? Because there's a lot to deal with. And the other thing is the idea that you can just, snap your fingers and systematize everything and walk away from it. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is if you're going to start a law firm or you have a law firm and you want to grow it, you have to roll up your sleeves and work. And there are a lot of things that you have to do. So the perspective is, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to do a lot of things, I'm going to learn a lot of things, and I'm going to get to the other side. And so it's a process, and it's not something that you can do in 90 days. It's not something you can probably do short of a few years. Some people are faster than others. So it takes effort. It takes effort, and it's hard. It's difficult. But the reason that you should consider doing it is because the landscape we have now with criminal defense law firm owners, criminal defense solo practice attorneys, and this also applies to, any area of practice, but I focus on criminal defense. My passion is helping criminal defense lawyers grow because I believe in individual rights. I'm opposed to us living in a police state, and so that's my passion. I want people to be defended. I do not want people being crushed by the criminal justice system, and that's what happens. So if more lawyers do better work, have less stress, have more time to think about how to improve their firm, then they deliver better results and the lawyers are happier. They're more satisfied. They feel better about themselves. So that's the reason to do it. And what I see is with law firms is it's really haves and have-nots. And we see that in society in general where, the top 5% of the country in terms of wealth, they're doing great. They've been doing great. They're doing better and better and better. And there's that gap between the haves and the have-nots. And I'm not even talking about the top 1%. I'm not even talking about the billionaires and people like that. I'm just talking about the top 5 or 10%. They just do better while everybody else does a little bit worse. And in terms of law firms and small criminal defense practices, that's been happening for a while. And there are people that are losing ground, getting fewer clients, making less money. And then there are people that you see that just seem to have it all. And they're doing very well, and they're the haves. So do you want to be a have or have not? And some people may be happy saying, well, I don't need this much. I'm going to downsize. I'm going to do less in life. I'm going to, live in a smaller house and drive an older car and not take vacations because I'm peaceful and maybe I have a garden and I enjoy sitting in my garden and petting my dog. And that's fine if that's what you want. But there's also a danger if you're steadily declining. So, and I remember this because I was there. I was so there. And I remember being in court. I can still picture it. It was in like the DUI court. It was the roster call. We were there doing, plea bargains and stuff like that. And this lawyer I knew who was doing so much better than me, I remember he was joking around. He was joking around with his paralegal because he had an iPad, okay? And I thought that was the most fantastic thing in the world. It was right when I guess they had just come out or something. And I couldn't afford an iPad. And I can't even remember what it cost, but that was a big expense for me. And he was talking about how absent-minded he was and how he had lost 2 or 3 of them because he had it on an airplane. And then he put it in the back of the seat or something and lost it and had to go get another one. Well, this was kind of a shocking revelation to me because, one, I really didn't feel like I could even buy an iPad. I certainly wasn't flying around on airplanes and going anywhere because I didn't have the time or the money. And it was just kind of eye-opening. Now that's changed for me. And I don't know, maybe people see me the same way because, my staff, my lawyers, they've got this nice laptop. If they want a Mac, which I prefer, a Mac laptop or an AirBook or whatever they're called, I provide those to people so they can do their job. I provide iPhones to people, a work iPhone, so they can work off of that and not have it on their personal phone. And there's some other reasons for that as well. And so, if people on my team, they want an iPad, they get one. So that changed drastically for me. And the reason it changed is because I really woke up to the fact that I could do something about it. Because I didn't know what I didn't know, but I didn't know there was anything to know. And I remember practicing, and it was very frustrating because I was a good criminal defense lawyer. I worked hard on that. I spent all my time and energy, going to seminars and reading books on trial practice and trying to learn from people who really were good at it. And I would read court transcripts of the best lawyers and really hone in on, how do you do an effective cross-examination? How do you cross-examine a police officer? How do you make an effective, closing argument? How do you, make your motions and get the judge to come around to your side? I'd spent all my time doing that. Only, the potential clients, the people that needed me, they didn't notice. They didn't know about it. I remember this one time I tried a case, and one of the sheriff's deputies came up to me and he said, "Greg, wow, that was incredible. I didn't know we had lawyers like you in this town. Think about that. And so what he saw me do in court wowed him, but nobody knew it. Nobody knew it. And there's this saying that the best cases go, to the best marketers. The best cases don't go to the best lawyers. So I'm not saying I was the best lawyer, but I was pretty good. I may have been probably one of the best. I think I probably was at the time. And, but I didn't have business. I had crickets because people didn't know that. They have to know that. And I didn't know how to tell them. And I didn't even know there was anything to know. But once I started learning, I learned that I have to do something, to write my life story. I have to do something to create the life that I desire. I have to do something. And I also remember, because when I moved to Myrtle Beach, I was in my late 20s and I wanted to get a job. I wanted to be a criminal lawyer, so I wanted to work in the DA's office or the public defender's office. And that's what I ended up doing, with some help from some other people that helped get me in there. But I remember I started off a little bit with a bang, but because I didn't know anything about marketing, I didn't know anything about how to get clients. I didn't have any systems. I didn't have a playbook. And so I remember there was a group of lawyers that were a little bit younger than me, and they were the privileged. They were the ones, this one group of lawyers, their father had been a state senator. He was very well known. He was a former DA. He was a part-time judge, in the jurisdiction. And then they come in, and they grew up there. They grew up in Myrtle Beach. They grew up in a nice neighborhood in Myrtle Beach. They had a ton of friends. Everyone knew them, and people didn't know me. I worked, 15 miles away in Conway at the DA's office, but everyone knew them. And I remember one time going into, basically it was summary court, traffic court, and I would go in, I'd have my one file. I had one client, or I had two maybe, and this other guy, I'm looking at it, he's got 12. I mean, one time I think we went to something for these pretrial conferences, he had a whole stack. He's got 22 files. I've got 2. I've got 3. And I remember thinking that because I thought life just happened in some kind of like fatal tapestry and there was nothing I could do to change it, I remember thinking that, and it was so sad, I was really upset because I felt so defeated. I thought, I'm just going to get skipped. Like the older lawyers that were good and respected and people I looked up to who are getting older, some retiring or dying or whatever, I had this idea that life happens to you like you're on some kind of staircase of time, and that if you work hard and do what you're supposed to do, that as this staircase, or maybe even think of it as like, say, an escalator, this, because of I fit in this time slot, as the escalator went up, I would be like the next generation, and I'd have my time to shine before it went down to somebody below me in terms of what their age is. And I remember thinking that, oh, wow, I missed it. I'm in a bad spot. This is never going to happen. What am I going to do? I'm never going to be really that successful because I don't have the advantages that all these people have. I wasn't born into it, and they're just going to take the spot. And that was a scarcity thinking, that I thought there was a spot and that they were somehow in the world and life, that there was some power or some formula where this just happened to people. And I thought I was powerless because I didn't see it happening to me. It was out of my control. I thought life was just happened to me. And so what I learned is that, no, life doesn't happen to me. I decide I decide what's going to happen. How did I do that? First of all, I had to be open to learning, and I had to be open to knowing that there was something to learn. Because at the time, had somebody told me, like if somebody had literally shook me and said, look, Greg, wake up, call this number, sign up for this, get out of your comfort zone and go learn something. I say I would have done it. I don't know if I would have done it because I would have probably just thought it was total bullshit because I didn't believe in it. But if somebody had shook me and said that, so then what happened though is I guess life shook me, and it did snap me out of that kind of stupor. And then I started learning, and I started implementing, and I started growing. And so now, and I don't know what these guys think of me, honestly. I mean, I don't really associate with them. And I don't know if they like me or dislike me. I don't know if they respect my firm or not. I don't know. There's nothing I can really do about it. But I do know this. The one lawyer who I thought was going to take the spot through some kind of life's plan, I remember he had told somebody, because was investing in some other things, he said, look, I'm never going to be rich as a criminal defense lawyer, so I accept that. So it's completely opposite. What I thought was true, perhaps he thought was true, but it's not. You have to take control of this. And if you want to move into a better place, there's a way to do it. It's a system. You can learn it. Other people know how to show you to do that. It's out there if you're open to it. So thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
If you want to know more, go to prosperatelaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.